Hey everybody, Phil Capadora here. Welcome back to another episode of the AFC podcast. I got a very special guest today. Her name is Jennifer Bangs. Once upon a time, sometime way before the incubation of the Astoria Filmmakers Club, Jennifer and I just happened to be sitting next to each other on a plane. I believe it was heading to Dallas. So welcome, Jennifer, to the AFC podcast show. How are you?
Good, so good. I love it. A plane meeting.
That was just a weird thing. I just remember looking over my left shoulder while you're just typing on your computer, and you were going over dialogue and lines, fixing it all up for a one-woman show as you were heading to Dallas, Texas. And it was just, oh, wow, what a coincidence.
Yeah, I love it. That's great.
And I couldn't help it, just to make conversation. I'm like, what are you writing?
Yeah, like we saw each other. We're like, you're an artist too. So yeah.
Definitely picked up on the energy.
Yeah.
So it's
Definitely.
been like, how you been? It's only been like what, 5-6 years?
Well, I'm trying to think. So yeah, I did the show in 2018. So yeah, it's been 5 years.
Right.
So yeah, and I just you know, did it in New York for about a year on and off, and stopped it in 2019. The pandemic hit, and then I just did it back for the first time since the pandemic, and just did it last night here in Texas. So that was fun.
So it's a one-woman show. What's that show about?
It's my last name is Bangs, and so the show is called She Bangs, Marriage, Adultery, Texas, and Jesus. And so it's like a cross between stand-up and a cabaret and a live rock show. So I've got musicians on stage with me, and I tell an original piece, but throughout the piece I sing cover songs. And so the concept was, I'm giving people about an hour to an hour and a half worth of content that's all original, and it's a lot of information to take in. And I was like, in order to kind of give people's ears sort of a break, their mind sort of a break from all this I'm sorry, that's gonna, hold on.
Yeah, got to get the phone off the hook.
Geez.
That's all right.
Phone never rings. Because I was giving people all this new information, and I was like, I need to give them a break. And so let me do cover songs that people know, that, like a musical, aid in the telling of the story, but it's not original music. There's one original song in the whole thing. I think there's 13 songs, other songs that are covers that most people would recognize. So namely the Ricky Martin song, She Bangs. That's beginning and the end of the show. So
yeah, go figure.
I'm like, there was one morning I was trying to think what to call this show. And I just felt like, just use your name. Like, you have a ridiculous last name. So just go all in. So that's what I did.
Well, I guess it's really working. You just did the show last night. So how'd that go?
It was great. I wasn't sure exactly how a Texas audience would take it. When you do stuff in New York City, New York is very artistic and culturally, they get it. And so when I have a title like Marriage, Adultery, Texas, and Jesus, they know that it's a little tongue in cheek. They know that it's not some like preachy thing or whatever. But being here in the Bible Belt, I had some people approach me and they were like, is this like a Christian thing, ministry thing? And I'm like, no. I was like, I am a Christian, but I didn't write it to like proselytize or something. And then I had other people approach me and say, are you like going to make fun of Jesus? Because like, I can't handle that. And I was like, no, I'm not making fun of anybody, So I wasn't sure, and there's a lot of language in it. And again, New York audiences are like, yeah, we don't care. But I wasn't sure how it was going to fly in Texas. I had some very strong Christians come, and I told them ahead of time, I was like, be warned. I was like, it's rated R for strong language, and when I drop a couple of real salacious talk, they were laughing. So I was like, okay, good. I was like, I got the strong Christians. They're fine.
So they get it. So, when
they
it comes
did.
To the story.
They did. It's a very raw story. I've had a lot of people say to me, I've never seen anything quite like it. Um, uh, there's a there's a comedian named Hannah Gatsby who wrote a show called I want to say I think it's called Nanette. She's a stand-up comedian. Um, and she has this like hour and a half long special on, I think it's on Netflix. And she kind of does a little bit, Mike Birbiglia does the same thing where they're comedians and they get on stage for like an hour to an hour and a half and they're telling jokes, but they're also telling this like kind of serious story. And there's a narrative to it. And there's like a beginning, middle, and an end, which isn't exactly what stand-up is. And so it's sort of in that vein where people are laughing, people are engaged, but there's a kind of a deep, dark story that's part of the act. And so people really appreciate it because it's very different than what most people are exposed to. And everybody, from the times I did in New York to now here in Texas, everybody likes it. Like, I feel really good about it.
It kind of reminds me a little bit like Maureen from Rent when she was like doing her one woman show and there was TV involved, a little bit of singing, some poetry, some snaps. Like it sounds like that show was never told because the cops and the crowd, they just didn't get along, and it's just like, oh, so Jennifer has basically that type of a show that just made it to the end.
Well, what's so interesting of what you just said, I actually do that piece from Rent in the show.
I heard that in the trailer, honestly.
Yeah, I do Over the Moon in that. And so, yeah. And that was another thing. I wasn't sure exactly because I don't know how many people in Texas have seen Rent. Everyone in New York has seen it like 8,000 times. And so I was like, when I get to the Maureen part, are they going to be like, what is happening? Like, but they were with it. They were with it. They were with me. Like, they were like, all right, we don't really know what's happening, but you seem like you're having a good time.
I've only been to Texas like maybe 3 or 4 times for like doing traveling sales and whatnot, but like it's a totally different culture, and it's boiling hot. Like you're in an oven when you're not inside.
I love it. I love it.
What a beautiful dry heat. Oh my God.
I love it so much. I love walking outside and feeling the sun like burning my skin. Like I love it so much. New York was hard. I've been in New York, since the 90s, and I could never get used to the winters, but I don't have a problem with the summers in Texas. So.
Oh, geez. Like I know Texas is enormous, but I guess like between the Dallas, the Arlington, maybe that's a little bit hotter. But if you go a little bit further northeast, it's like green pastures in different parts of Texas.
A little bit. We don't really have the most beautiful landscape in Texas. It's rough. Yeah. There are trees. There are trees here. It's not all desert. So
yeah. I mean, there's got to be some foliage, right?
Yes, there is. Yeah, we got trees. There's a fake tree right there. But no, yeah, we got trees. So there's green. There's green here. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Kind of reminds me a little bit like every time I think of Texas, I'm not immediately thinking of Yellowstone because that's a little bit further, but just like the culture of being a cowboy, it started, I guess it must have started there in Texas.
I mean, definitely part of it, part of the reason we have the whole cowboy thing is that the land here it's just not good soil. We really can't grow a lot of stuff here. And so we can grow grass, and that's why we have cattle. That's why it's like such a meat centric place. Yeah, they actually filmed, what's the other one to Yellowstone?
1883.
1883, they filmed that down the street here in Fort Worth last summer.
God. Really?
Yeah. What's his name? Taylor Sheridan, the director of Yellowstone, the writer and director.
I'll have to take a look. I'm not sure.
I think he's filmed a lot. I think he's from here, or he's got a ranch here now, but he's filmed a lot of stuff here. There's a TV show called The Chosen, which is about the life of Jesus.
I love that show.
It's filmed here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So it's, like there is some filmmaking going on here, not a ton, but Get it when you can. Just do wherever you can film.
I just found it. You got your boy Taylor Sheridan. He's a writer
Taylor.
producer. He is involved in Yellowstone. He did do Wind River, good movie. And
Oh, so
Hell on
good.
High Water. I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, I just saw it the other day because I was thinking I need to see more of his stuff. Yeah, Wind River. There's a scene in there. I think it's one of the greatest cinematic scenes I've ever seen. Oof, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I remember watching it for the first time. You got what was it, Jeremy Renner, and
Yeah,
he was sort of like
like a
uh
ranger.
he is a ranger, but I know he has bloodline in the Native American uh I guess you could call it the Native American community.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was very, what I found most interesting is that when it came to jurisdiction and law, it's a very gray area between the indigenous people and the federal and the FBI. It was crazy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, it's why, you've got, especially here, you've got areas of land between the Texas and Oklahoma border that were given to the Native Americans, and they put these massive casinos there because they're kind of like out of the jurisdiction of like Texas or Oklahoma. And so they're like, we're going to put a casino here, and everybody goes.
Yeah,
So,
I know, like I noticed that just the economy and
yeah.
like in the past year, and I've met indigenous people and what like I don't know, just the universe is sending people my way and maybe just by becoming a storyteller. And I've always had a very open heart for Native Americans and just the culture.
Mm,
Like my whole life, I've always been that way. It's just like I
interesting.
don't know why. Like that's just me, dude. I don't know, but there's such like for me, there's like I don't know, like a spiritual connection where I do have a flicker, like a green light bulb that just goes off every time I hear someone they're singing, whether it's the drums, whether it's the dance, whether it's the language, something like just like lights up inside of me, you know. And I'm learning how like just as an entire people, I never knew basically until I was watching most of 1923 the I guess
Yeah.
the spin-off to this whole
Hmm.
Yellowstone series. So like of course we all know the Holocaust, like it's still pretty fresh in everybody's memory, but the American government 100 years ago made Nazis look like a bunch of Boy Scouts for what they were doing with the Catholic Church to the indigenous people in the United States. It was absolutely insane. And
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah, we studied that a little bit in my Texas history growing up. That was a little bit of a part of, you know, we studied that a little bit because you're from where?
I'm born in Brooklyn.
Okay, okay, yeah. So that was a little bit a part of, our history, but Texans are also very proud, and so we didn't dwell on it. We weren't like we're terrible. We were just like, oh well.
We can't even say that's us. Like, like we weren't even born yet, you know, like
This is true.
I, I hate to get political, but it's like, I can't take responsibility for actions other than my own, you know?
I agree. I
I,
agree.
I think that goes for everybody. And I don't think what happened was right in any way, shape, or form.
No,
I think it was I would call it criminal. And honestly, just, I don't even I can't even describe it because there's so much about it I don't know. I don't think it's something you should bury in history. I think it is something that you do need to talk about. I heard so many Native Americans say such intelligent things, just like even spiritually principle driven things where it was just they were all words of peace and like
mm,
you know what I mean? And I just remember like one guy in particular, he was pretty much like he was put in, I guess, into a little bit of a corner on why do you keep talking about it? Why do you keep bringing it up? Well, first of all, he has the right to, Amendment 1. So there's that. And he kind of put it into perspective, say, why do we keep talking about D-Day? Why do we keep talking, I guess, about the Holocaust? And how would you feel if you were told to never talk about 9/11 again? So that's where you got me because I'm like, well, I got a direct connection to 9/11. I saw the pit when I was 14 years old. You know, my dad was a first responder. So for him to say
Oh,
something like that, I totally understood exactly where he was coming from. And I think it's really important to keep these conversations alive. Just prevent them from ever happening. But what about making amends a little bit? It's just a curious thing on how like this entire nation, indigenous people, they literally became immigrants in their own country. And I'm quoting a Native American who said that, somebody who I met actually several months ago, who put it into perspective, and it's like, I don't even know what to say. It's like, how do you make up for something like that in generations of oppression, rape, murder? It's like a William Wallace Scotland story where it's just like, holy shit, these guys have every right to go to fight and go to war, but it just doesn't seem to be, they're willing to do it, but they're choosing not to. I think that right there is like the ultimate version of strength of their resolve. And that's what I really like about indigenous people.
yeah. 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 It's, we don't talk about the history of, I don't know if Native American is the correct term now, or American Indian. I'm not really sure. I've heard different ones, but yeah, we don't really talk about that history a whole lot. Um, so yeah, there's a couple of artists down in Fort Worth at a museum, the Remington and Russell. They're both like artists about 100. No, let's see, we're in 2023 now, about 100 years ago, and they did a lot of art on Native Americans and the Wild West and things like that. And they were very respectful of the Native Americans. They would paint and they would sculpt, and a lot of artists at the time would try to make the Native Americans look like lesser than the white people. And these artists, particularly Remington and Russell, would their paintings they try to stay very accurate and very true. And so they would have these fight scenes between cowboys and Indians, and it didn't make either side like the victor. It was just like, this is what happened. And it's really beautiful artwork. And like I said, that's in Fort Worth. There's a whole museum of these artists. And every time people come in, they're like, oh my gosh, this is, because I've been in there a lot, and it's really beautiful. So there is a little bit of that. You should come to Fort Worth and
Why not?
explore all this. Yeah, it's here. It's here.
I only got to go for work. I never really got a chance to just like when you visit a city to really be in it, and just like maybe like take a look around, go to a museum, like go see a show, something,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've done that. Like I did do that a little bit when I was on tour back in 2015. Can't believe I said 15. It was 8 years ago already. Went on tour 8 years ago, did a play halfway around the United States and made a very hard right in Texas, in Louisiana, went straight to Chicago, did that for like 3 months, took a nice lap around half the country, and then made it back all the way to Connecticut.
What tour did you do?
It was funny, like it was like the story of Anne Frank.
Really?
Yeah. It was just like it was like an adapted play.
Was it like a children's show? Was it Theater Works?
It was, oh my God, I don't even remember the theater company. It wasn't called Theater Works though.
Was it adapted for younger audiences, or was it just adapted?
It was adapted more for like high school, middle school.
Okay.
Because the guy who wrote the play got to meet, or like really got to know, a woman by the name of Meep Geese. And she was one of the survivors that was in the attic with Anne Frank, who lived in that attic for, I forgot how long it was. I don't know if it was a year and a half or 2.5 years. It was a long time. And he created pretty much the adaptation of converting like the dad, Mr. like I think it was Mr. Von Don and Mr. Frank, the two dads. They built some sort of, like, they were able to get through the wall behind a bookcase, and then like build a staircase going all the way up into this just like little air pocket between like the ceiling and the roof and all that. We had where like you were living like, it was tiny. So they were able to build for a few months a way to get up and in it. And I guess they just had the foresight to prepare for the worst where they have to hide. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And he got direct testimony from the people who were like full blood German, which was the secretary of the business before he had to leave. And I think it was her husband. And they pretty much operated the business. I think it was, I don't know if it was a bookstore or something like that, but pretty much maintained the business side of
Yeah.
things and supplied them with food whenever they could. And basically, they were just keeping it under the radar, keeping everything quiet. But at night, the two dads, they would work their ass off all night long preparing the space upstairs, and they pulled it off. Like they were able to survive for several. I guess it was just a couple of years. Until, of course, the liberation, I think, happened in less than a month after they got caught. So it's like right at the finish line. It was something very close to the chest where the mom died, Anne died. I think Mr. Von Dam's son. What the heck was that kid's name? I should know. I played the role of the dad.
Oh, was it the Peter?
Peter? Yeah, I think it actually was Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the boy she liked, right? Or was like around the same age as her. I want to say it was Peter. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
So
it was just like a little like touring play. We put our own sets up. We had our own little costumes, little microphones. We went around to like, oh my God. If I really dug deep, I could probably find.
It sounds like Theater Works.
It was theater, but it was
it
like.
Sounds like do you know the company Theater Works?
No,
It's
in the last couple of years, not acted.
Oh, it's based out of New York City. It might have been. It sounds very much like Theater Works. Theater Works is a company, and they take adaptations of shows, or they write shows about historical characters or historical people, and then tour around a huge part of the country, going into middle schools and high schools. I did it, and it was a show on Thomas Edison, and so we went around and told all the kids about the electric light bulb.
Well, I mean, I think we could all appreciate it because it led to laptops. So
I know. I was like, it's fine. So, but yeah, it sounds like a Theater Works tour you did, which was really kind of cool. So, yeah.
That was a treat. Never went on tour before, but got it through backstage. This theater company I remember specifically was like Children of the Arts, but they were based in I think it was Bristol, Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was nice to put on the resume, a great experience, and the next thing you know, it's like your life is really about to begin.
Yeah.
So that was a treat. But the next time I go to Texas, I guess I'll have to hit you up and go see a museum.
Yeah, come to Fort Worth. Fort Worth is very, very quintessential Texas. Probably the most Texas city. Yeah, when people come to Texas, they're like, I hear Austin's great. I'm like, yeah, you can go to Austin, but that's not Texas. I was like, if you want to go to Texas, go to Fort Worth.
Well,
that's where you got real cowboys.
Well, every time I hear Austin, I think of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah. Yeah, Austin. Austin is not Texas.
Austin is not Texas. So what happens in Fort Worth? Is that where they do all the filming and everything there?
No, Fort Worth is they have like real cowboys come to Fort Worth, and they actually trade and buy and sell livestock. And there's like an entire area called the Stockyards. I'm actually going there later today, but it's like Longhorns will like walk down the street, and like it's all these buildings, and like it's where people come to buy and sell cattle. And so the culture there is very cowboy. And when you see guys walking down the street in cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, they're not just wearing it for fun. Like that's literally like they're literally cowboys. But I tell people, if you see girls wearing the cowboy boots and the cowboy hat, they're not real cowgirls. Like that's fashion in Fort Worth. But the guys are real.
So what are like barrel riders and rodeo girls? What do they wear? A cowboy hat and like sneakers? Like how do they dress to show off their spurs?
I mean, I guess they're real, but they're not usually walking around the stockyards. They're like off doing stuff. I don't know what they're doing. There's not a lot of. I don't meet a lot of actual cowgirls. I mean, they are some. I mean, last year, every year they do a big rodeo, and I mean, these girls show up and they're, I mean, everybody there, the bull riders and the, calf ropers and stuff. It's pretty incredible, and there are girls that do it, but there's not a ton of them. Um, it's a very specific job that they're doing and competition. But they are incredible to see. But there's a lot more cowboys than there are actual cowgirls. So
Oh yeah.
there's not a lot of real cowgirls. So I've never met one. I don't actually know any real cowgirls. So I'd love to meet one someday. She can fill me in on what life is like.
I mean, there's probably like I don't know, apply for an internship type of a program that they got. They could kind of like, hijack or somebody in the news like, hey, do you know anybody?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a different kind of culture. Most of these people are living and working on ranches. It's like part of their family. They grew up this way, and so
Yeah,
so it's
insane.
hmm?
It's like, to me, it's not insane, but when like
It's unique.
it's so unique because I had right after college, especially, like up in the Hudson Valley, you have the Catskill region, and in the Hudson Valley area where I, for the most part, grew up, it is very country compared to New York City because there's so many there's dairy farms, there's horse farms, there's cattle farms, there's goat farms, there's chicken farms, there's lamb farms, and agriculture in New York, where it's very like it's almost like, like medieval times in a sense, where you actually have pretty much your castle, call it a county, but there's food and livestock being developed everywhere in the state of New York. It's very unique. But to actually be a part of that, to maintain it, that's what makes it very special and unique. Because like that's literally what comes to the grocery store every single day, and these guys literally put their lives into this that keeps everyone alive. Like, when shit hit the fan, I'm sure during the pandemic, they got a couple testimonies where it's like, yeah, we were fine. Like, even the Amish community, I don't know how it works, but there wasn't, like, I even heard something weird. The Amish community didn't actually have one case of COVID.
No.
I'm like, are you sure? All right. I guess I assume their immune system is like top notch, but I don't know. It's just one of
Yeah.
those, and they can survive and live off the land. Like, yeah, no problem. It's nothing. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah. The Amish they're prepared.
Oh,
They're gonna.
they're smart people. Like, they all look alike. That's my only turn off. Where it's like, how do you guys know? Like, how do you guys know the difference between each other? They just do. And
You can
like,
see their
I
faces.
know. I'm just
Come on.
all right. I'm joking, but like, I just never understood the look and why everybody looks, the exact same way. It's like, you can't even, like, one guy can't have a mustache or like a goatee. What's the difference? So,
Yeah, there's definitely a suppression of any kind of like individuality or yeah, I
just
don't
the game.
some of their beliefs are whack, but so many things of what makes them such a unique community are really beautiful.
They
And so
care
yeah,
about each other.
yeah, they're very community driven.
They
But
really care
again,
about each other.
to your point, there's also it's a little bit of a we don't want anybody. I don't know. It's that they don't want to be flashy, but I don't know. That part is wacky to me. But yeah, they care about each other. They're very gracious and loving, and they work hard, and yeah, I mean, it is a little bit like the Native Americans, kind of going full circle of just like being one with the land and understanding and having a respect for animals and a respect for the land and a respect for the environment and trying to be as holistic and non-pharmaceutical as possible.
Yeah.
It's probably why they didn't have COVID, because they're not taking all these chemicals that we're like surrounding ourselves. I just saw a thing. They were going through the streets of New York the other day, like spraying pesticides and like had a little, did you see this?
No, I
I
hadn't.
saw it online last night. Somebody was filming out their window, and it was like government trucks, city trucks going through and saying, please shut your windows. We are spraying pesticides. Please shut your windows. And they were like spraying these plumes going through the streets of New York with like a microphone saying, please. And I was like, okay.
Like, what the hell? Why
I
would
know,
they do that?
and I know they did this a couple of years ago. They're like, we're going to spray stuff into the subway system, into the subways. Um, I don't know, they were like testing something. And I just remember being like, what are all these chemicals we were breathing in? So it makes sense to me that the Amish didn't have COVID, or if they did, they were like over it because their bodies are like free of
Everything.
all the things, free of the McDonald's, free of the sugar and yeah. So
Every single thing.
everything. I'm gonna go live with the Amish when the end of the world hits. They're gonna be on top of things.
I mean, not even God, I guess like one century ago, like we all had ancestors who could survive in that same exact lifestyle and model as they have sort of
Yeah.
maintained after all these years, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
was
true.
I always get very I always get very deep about life on, well, why wasn't I born, or why wasn't I around then? You know, what am I contributing towards right now? Like, and then destiny goes in, and then you go down the God rabbit hole, and it's like, so wait, well, like, why? You know, all of that pops up, and it's just like, don't worry about it. I don't know, and this is where the conversation just gets wacko.
I think we are a very special generation. I don't mean just our age. I mean the people that are alive today. I I think uh, are a very very special group of people because I think that uh, we are we are coming, whether you believe in God or not, or believe in Christianity or not. I'm a Christian, so whether you believe in that, there are ancient texts that talk about the end of the world, and the main thing in the book of Revelation is this coming together of all the nations coming together as one. And we are in a time period for the first time in the history of the world where that is happening, where there is a sense of like countries like unifying. And so, again, whether you believe that the book of Revelation is truthful or not, it is interesting that it was written 2,000 years ago
And now,
for seeing something that has never happened and never even had an indication any time in the world of all these. But this is the first time in history where you've got technology where you can literally talk to somebody from another country and have a conversation and bridge that gap so quickly that then you can start having the meeting of the minds. You can get on a plane and fly to the same place and meet with world leaders, so
yeah,
I think the same question, why was I born now, not then? I think everybody alive today, everybody listening to this podcast right now, everybody, like, they are very special, like very special, because I think this is a very, one of the most interesting times in all of history, to be alive during this time. So
yeah,
that's what I think.
and that's what it's just like. And then of course I just always go back to why, because I've been a Christian since I was 14, and
Oh, yeah.
oh my God, my whole life, and I'm like, I understand it. I battle with calling myself a Christian because I have a lot of respect for the title, and I know I'm just not worthy to call myself that.
Oh, that's
You know,
interesting.
no, I really do. I swear, because I'm not making that part up. I really get it.
Mm.
I just really wish I didn't. like, and it's like, I think everybody does have a purpose for being alive today. I really believe that. And like, I think about, me and where I fit in. Where am I in the body of Christ? What am I supposed to do? What's my function? What do I do to move? How could I help to move us forward? You know?
Mm.
And that's where it's just like, I don't know, God, you got to give me a sign. And like actually last night, like I literally prayed for, look, today, I don't know what you want me to do, but you're gonna have to give me a sign today. And I woke up this morning, and a guy, and this could be the devil fucking with me, because I'm like, if he's gonna listen in on my prayers to you, that's
Oh
not.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
bullshit. Come on, what the fuck, bro? So can't, like, this is private. So like I wake up, as soon as I wake up, it's like, hey Phil, I always like appreciate you inviting me to all these things. I just got uh enrolled as an agent for this model agency, and we got all the casting network things that other people don't. So if you'd like, I could hook you up with a profile, and I could be your quote unquote agent for however long. And I'm like, sure, what do you need from me? I'm just like, send me a picture and a profile or an email, yada yada. So I signed up, and it's like I've never really known this guy, but I'm like, there's no way that was the sign. And I'm like, I'll just go with it in the meantime. But it's like, I tried to quit acting and not be a part of this at all so many times over the years. And I tried other ventures. And when I met you on the plane, I don't know if we were going to Arizona, but that's where I was going. But we rendezvoused somehow in Texas, I think, from New York. I was a 3D printer technician, and I was going to, like, get more training in Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but about a year later, that company just folded. It just didn't quite work out. But all those people I've met, I've always stayed in touch with, and I learned so much as a 3D printer technician. And it's like one of my favorite. It's like one of my most favorite things to do in the world. Like, I 3D print now, and it's so much fun. Here's like a coat hanger, which is basically an ice cream cone, and I do it, like, I just make things all the time because like I just enjoy it. But I just wonder, like, is by me being an actor branching me out into all of these different fields and growing community somehow, where I'm actually learning different skills in other different areas. And then I reset after I learn that, and I come right back to this podcast, for example. But where's it all going towards? What's it all for? I
Mm.
really wrestle with this because, like, uh, it's like, but I'm also a man. I'm supposed to be a provider, a protector. I'm supposed to have a job. I'm supposed to really know what I'm doing. Like, and I just don't ever feel, me personally, that I ever measure up to these standards. And I always fall short in everything. You know, and it's just like, why am I doing this if it's all for nothing? Like, what's the point?
I love everything you're saying. Um, and I very much believe that artists have a special calling. We have, and so anybody watching this who is an artist, obviously you're an artist if you're watching this. Artists are the 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 vehicle by which truth and beauty channels through to the world. Um, and so your calling is exactly what you're doing. You're an artist, and the world does not financially really reward artists. Yeah, there's a few out there. But as more and more things are exposed, we're seeing like there's a price to pay for being super famous and super successful. There seems to be like this sort of insidious, like, you kind of have to sell your soul to whoever is paying you the bucks to be super famous, you know. And so if you don't go that route, then you're kind of left in this place where you're doing art and you're not really getting paid for it. And you, like you said, you don't feel like, okay, I don't have like a real job, and I'm not like actually making a lot of money. And like, all my friends who are not artists, who are just like, buying their third house and they're going on trips to Europe and stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, how old am I? Like, I am not even close to that. But I'm glad that they're doing their little widget making and building a nice life for themselves. But what they're doing is very insular and it's very unto themselves and maybe unto their family. But the things that you and I are doing are for people. And so back to the whole thing of like this, I think that the people that are alive during this time are very special. And I think that storytellers, more than anything, are the most important. Where the, going back to the pandemic, this is what was so upsetting is that they labeled performers and artists non-essential. And so we only focused on people's physical health. It was just stay home, wear a mask, get vaccinated, physical health, keep the kids out of school, physical health. And it's like, while everybody's souls died and our suicide rates went through the roof. And I, as an artist, was sitting here screaming, like, we cannot only focus on physical health. We have to focus on mental health and spiritual health. And the churches were closing down. And I was like, I went to a church in New York City. I loved this church so much. I'd been there for years. And I went, they finally opened up after 6 months or whatever. And I showed up and, they were like, we need to take your temperature before you go into the church. And I was like, well, what happens if my temperature is above normal? And they said, we would tell you to leave and come back at another time. And I was like, are you for real?
Yeah.
I was like, don't you think that it should be the Christians that are saying, oh, you have a high temperature, you have COVID, here. Come here. We're going to pray for you. Something. And I was like, this is what artists and Christians were designed to do, which is be there for people when their souls are dying or they're going through hard times. And it was the artists and it was the Christians that went, no, come back at another time. And it was not good. And oh my gosh.
Welcome to Happy Corner. This project strives to make safe housing areas for stray cats at an affordable price. It's so easy to put together that even your children could have fun making one. Help keep cats and other animals safe with their own little Happy Corner homes. You can help this project become a reality by donating to the GoFundMe page. Happy Corner homes are a great way to show those animals in need it's okay to be happy.
I know so many, my friend is a child psychologist in New York City. And he said half of his patients during COVID, half were on suicide watch.
Ooh. All of them are kids or just it ranged?
All of them are kids. Half of his patients in 2020 were on suicide watch. And nobody talks about this. And so I'm like, this is why what you are doing, you're a storyteller and you are telling stories. And this is what is important. And it's why you started this nonprofit. You were joining filmmakers and storytellers together. And maybe you don't know exactly where it's going, but you're doing it and you're bringing people together. And as our industry continues to change, because our industry was decimated, the unions were like, no, we're closing down during COVID and now we're on strike. And, I'm like, Broadway closed down, the Metropolitan Opera closed down, everything closed down. And I was like, wait, this is not it's interesting. New York City used to be the place that you were like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. You don't tell me what to fucking do, I'm going to do and I watched New York City just turn into a different kind of person. And it used to be that I could walk down the street in New York City. I could wear a chicken suit. I could do whatever. And people would be like, no, whatever, or I could walk down the street, with a big, I'm a Republican, go Bush or whatever. And people would be like, all right, Now you walk down the street with a Trump shirt, or you walk down the street without a mask on your face, like during 2020.
I got fired from my job because I took my mask off outside.
I had so many people scream at me because I was like, I'm not wearing a mask outside. This is my Texas spirit coming out. I'm like, you don't tell me what to fucking do. That's why I moved to New York, because I was like, ooh, these people are just like, fuck you, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And
It's
then
fear, man, it's all fear. Like that whole thing was one giant fear fest. And to say now it kind of dissolved and went away, it kind of did. Nothing really changed. And it's like we're setting ourselves up for round two, where it's like we're using this.
It's coming back. It's coming back. And I'm just like,
if we drop 50 million people like happened 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, where 50 fucking million people died, okay, that is an epidemic.
Oh, that's I will hide in my house and I will never talk to anybody ever again. Absolutely.
It's terrifying. Like our immune system back then, whatever the hell happened, and now just compared to this, it's just like I really don't want to minimize it, because it's not a common cold, but it's like,
no.
Your body and your mind and your spirit is stronger than this, but we're not talking about that.
No, I mean, yes, I don't, to your point, I don't want to minimize anybody. I mean, there were lots of people that died. And it's a real thing. It really happened. But the precautions that we were taking, especially in the industry, was voodoo. It was voodoo magic. It was nonsensical. And I did background work on a very big TV show in February of 2021. And, we got tested for COVID like 8,000 times before the actual day of shooting, and showed up on the set. We did a rapid COVID test. Nobody there had COVID. We were all COVID free. Yet we all had to stand and sit 6 feet apart from each other, wear our masks. And then we were called to set, and they were like, okay, everybody, rolling, everyone take your masks down and action. And then, okay, cut, everybody put your mask back on. And I was like, okay, like this is crazy. Like this, no. And that was the last time I worked for SAG at that point. I was like, this is not science. This is like, I don't know what this is, but this is crazy. But it's like
policy and penalties, it's like the state has a stronghold over, I guess, business operations, and all they got to do basically, like Burger King, for example, like I was making deliveries, doing Postmates, and I had a Burger King delivery, and I had to pee, but they couldn't let me in to use the bathroom because it was closed to the public. And I'm like, but I'm working for you. Doesn't count. They're going to get fined $10,000 if they let anybody use the bathroom. By who? The CDC and the state. So it's things like this where we're obligated to comply. And we're talking ridiculous fines here.
But see, this is where specifically the artists and the actors unions and they should have said, no, we're not doing it. We are more powerful than you. If you want to fine us and you want to like have us go away, good luck. You're not going to, like, the public is not going to be on your side. But instead, the unions caved.
They turn the public on each other.
Right. And I'm like,
what the fuck?
Artists are usually the ones that have been like, no, I'm not doing what the government tells me to do. I mean, like, think about it. Like, artists are typically the stuff that they're getting in trouble for, and the government's like, you can't say that, and censorship and all this stuff. And we've switched now where artists are encouraging censorship, and it's just again, I don't want to get political, but my industry became political. Yeah. And so I'm like, what is happening? Where did the actors, the artists go that were the ones that were like, fuck you, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and if you don't like it, too bad. That's the New York I knew. So anyway, you maybe have to edit out some of this. I don't want to sound too political and negative.
I don't think you're sounding negative at all. I think you're allowed to say what you damn well please.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And
You're right.
honestly, like, I think it is true that a lot of people need to be willing to tell the truth. And I think you have to start with your perspective is essential, and everybody has a different one. And it's got, even though it might trigger you to think in a different manner, you're still in pursuit of truth, because we don't know what the absolutes are, at least not yet. And that's why having a discussion is so essential.
Absolutely. And that actually comes full circle to my show that I just did last night. The
Yeah,
people, the reason,
like,
yeah, the reason people like it is because I am very truthful about my experience of fighting for my marriage when my husband was cheating on me, and then him coming back home, and then me cheating on him with a married man. And so I'm very honest about, okay, here is what my thought process was. Here are my actions when I was fighting for my marriage. And then here is what my actions and decisions and thought process was as I was a mistress. And yeah, they're in complete conflict. And I am a walking contradiction. And like, especially being a Christian and being a mistress, like, okay, that's not cool. And so I came to the table because I didn't see anybody being really honest about broken marriages, because everybody just pretends like their marriage is awesome when they shut the doors and they're like killing each other inside, or they're cheating on each other, or whatever it is. So I didn't see people being honest about how difficult marriage is. And I didn't see anybody being honest about adultery. Like, it was just like, don't talk about it, or you get divorced and you marry the person you had the affair with and everybody's happy. And it's like, no, that's not at all how it goes. And so see anybody being honest about it. And so, when I would tell people different parts of my story, they were always like really fascinated with it. They were like, oh, that's really interesting. And so I was like, you know what, I should turn this into a show. And so I did it. And I'm very truthful with what my experience is. And I think he said something earlier that kind of triggered this thought, is that when you're telling the truth, when you're telling your truth in the sense of like what happened to you, that is artistic, that is interesting. It's not judgmental. There's no preaching behind it. It's just, this is what it is. That's what a good story is. But when you bring in propaganda, or you bring in, I want the end result to be this, I want people to walk away with this message, it no longer becomes art. It becomes a sermon, it becomes didactic, and it becomes uninteresting. And so just telling the truth. And so that's what I do in my show. I'm just like, this is what happened to me. And I've had people come up to me after the show and say, oh my God, I feel like I can be totally honest with you about my life, because they know that I'm not going to judge them, because I'm like, boom, here's all my dirty laundry for everybody to see. And so, telling the truth, whatever that is for you and your experience, it's your experience, it's your thoughts, it's your interesting uniqueness. And yeah, people shouldn't get upset with you about telling about your experience.
No, not at all. That's on them. And I applaud you for even really being brave to even tell a story transparently and honestly, like something like that. And I can relate, because during the pandemic, my wife left me.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too. And that's where I was kind of like going with the God and the spiritual battle of all this. And I can't say the fight's over on that frontier, because it's so, it's like, it's like every day. It's hard, even for me when I met her, she was always an answered prayer for me. There was something that I knew I was lacking in my life, and that was someone who loved me, the person, and I found that person, and somewhere along the way, it just I don't, maybe if I knew how to do better maintenance on marriage, on what is a husband, that's where I get conflicted as an artist, because I never considered myself to be one. Artistic, yes, I have some skills. I have creativity. I got a lot of drive, and I really thought I was a lot spiritually stronger, but in this case, when that hit was a hit, I'm reading books by Ron Carpenter about the necessity of an enemy, and I'm learning about, yeah, God is real, but Satan's real too. Check this out. I'm like, what the fuck? So, like when it came to like, I didn't cheat, not even, no fucking way. Hell no, I did not do that. No way. I would never do that. But temptation to cheat was always there. It was like dangling in front of your face. It's like, I'm just trying to live my life. I'm walking down the street. Nope, I'm getting like my face like just weird things like that, and that's like, even now trying to like, I went on antidepressants for a year, my back pain, all of these little things where I was like, basically I was completely benched. I couldn't work. And even when I got fired for like taking my mask off, what the fuck? I think that's what put her over the edge, where she couldn't depend on me as a life partner, that was,
That's on her. That's no.
that's
No.
that's how I think, and I was like,
For richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, in good times and bad.
I truly believed that with all my heart. And so it's like, well, what could I have done differently, to kind of just strengthen her security in me as a partner, like I just like, that's what I talked to my therapist about, where it's like, probably nothing.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I don't know the situation, but you can fight for your marriage alone for a period of time. And I heard a marriage counselor, somebody who deals in like it's kind of like this national organization years ago. It was on like the worst like marriages and separations ever. But he's like, there's a line of reconciliation. And what happens is that you've got a spouse on either side of this line, and both of you are at the line, right? And then at some point, one of them moves away. Okay. So they go this direction. And a lot of times what happens then is the other person goes, oh, you moved away. Okay, I guess we're done. And then they move away too. But he's like, but if you stay at that line, you stay there and you wait there, then eventually that person will come back. And if you're still there, then there can be reconciliation. But a lot of times what happens is somebody goes, then the other one, maybe they wait there for a little bit, and then they're just like, all right, I guess this is over. And then they leave. And then that person comes back and they're like, oh, they're not there. So it's this interesting dance. And, I didn't know about any of that until my husband walked out the door, a long time ago. And my father-in-law was actually a marriage counselor. And so he counseled me while his son was out cheating on me, which was an interesting dynamic. But he was just like, if you want to save your marriage, you can do it. You can fight for your marriage alone. You can. And there's books on it. There's actually a book called How to Fight for Your Marriage. It's by Chalmers, I want to say. It's like a guy and his daughter that wrote it. And or how to survive an affair. That's what it's called. How to Survive an Affair. It is, if anybody's watching this and has a difficult marriage situation, How to Survive an Affair is like the Bible of affairs. And it's fantastic. It's like, all right, this is what your spouse is doing. This is what they're thinking. This is what they're saying. This is the conversations they're having with their mistress or their masteress or whatever you want to call it. And I made that word.
Masteress? That's a first.
Masteress, I don't know. Manstress, I don't know. And this is what's going on. And here's plan A. This is what you do. Okay. Plan A usually works. Plan A didn't work, move to plan B. Plan B doesn't work, get divorced. But usually you can get them through plan A or plan B. And so I moved through plan A, didn't work, went to plan B, worked. And so, so I don't know how that's part of, it's kind of part of what I'm talking about on my show.
And then the other thing is like, even when we talk about things, I love making discoveries, because personally, I think these are the type of films and projects I would like to see,
Mm-hmm.
or even to prepare us for when like shit does hit the fan, which there's always going to be challenges, there's always going to be trials. You know, if it is going to be for better or worse, they pretty much gave you a heads up day one. You don't know what to expect. And for me, movies always communicate with me a little bit more authentically. And I'll be able to apply a lot of things that I've learned in films to myself. Like that's my my life language, I guess you could say, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're you're doing it. You're like you're how many people do you know that are doing what you're doing? Very few. Very
No,
few.
no,
There's
if that,
there
not very few.
there are artists, but then there are also like organizers and administrative people. And then you have people like you who are kind of in the middle of that. They have an administrative, organizational, I'm going to start a nonprofit kind of mentality, but then they're also artistic. And that's the role that you're filling, which not many people do. Not many people kind of see both sides. You know, I used to date an artist. He was, oh my God, maybe the most incredible theater actor like in the world, like brilliant. Okay. But he was crazy. I mean, just a disaster of a person. And I'm convinced that the more skilled and brilliant you are as an artist, the more of a disaster in real life you are. And the more organizational you are and brilliant at that, the less artistic you are. And so there's people that are on that spectrum. And you're one of those people that are in the center that are like, okay, I can understand both sides. And so artists need people like you who are going to put together a nonprofit and be like, let's gather together. So you're doing it, man. You're doing it. This is your answer to prayer. You were praying about it. I'm telling you right now, this is it.
Yeah, I really hope so. Where if I just need a sign to keep going. Damn it, she bangs. Thanks. Jennifer. You know, and that was like I wanted to like even when my ex-wife, I'll say that now, when we were picking out names, I always wanted to name my daughter Jennifer. You know, it's just like
really.
No, I'm not making that part up either. That part's true.
That's so interesting because nobody calls their kids Jennifer anymore.
No, I was on the fence. Like, hey, Jennifer Capadora, Jenny Cap, what's up? So
Jenny Cap, that's actually pretty cute.
It was a combination. Like, I was really fixed on the name Sophia and Jennifer. It was a tie. So I'm just like Sophia, Jennifer Capadora, Jennifer, Sophia Capadora. I'm naming kids like, and I don't like, and we never even got pregnant. Like, and it's just like I don't know. I just loved planning and thinking ahead. You know, just kind of like, yeah, let's go, set a goal.
My old roommate, and this will tie everything together, talking about names and the countryside and cattle. She used to live on a farm in Oklahoma, and her aunt and uncle had a dairy farm. And so they had tons of cows, and she got to name all the cows. Every year when the cows would have like a whole, I don't know what you call them, a litter or whatever it is, they got to name, I know, right? I don't know what it's called.
I was just thinking, I know it's a herd altogether.
The herd. I don't know what you call like a group of, you know, oh, it wasn't like one, but that's what it was. All the different cows would have like calves at the same time. And she was in charge of naming all of them. And I was like so jealous. I was like, you get to pick out like multiple names every year. And what she did is every year they would have a letter of the alphabet. They would go in order, A, B, C, D. And so whatever the next letter was, all the cows that year had to be named starting with the same letter. And so they would keep track of how old the cows were based on anyway. So the year that we were roommates, her aunt and uncle, they had a whole, it was the letter I. And so she had to come up with all these names that started with I. And I was like, oh, that's a tough letter to name a bunch of,
you know. I'm going to name a cow Ingrid or something.
I know. Yeah.
It sounds like a cow's name.
Ingrid does. Yeah. She named one of them. We had a mutual friend at the time. He's an actor. I think he's in LA now, or has been in Iche Mrazek. And so Iche, I-C-E, and the little accent above the C. And so one of the cows in Oklahoma is named Iche. So
That's kind of cute.
Yeah, it's great. So there you go.
I wonder if the cows are still alive right now.
I don't know. I was thinking that. I was like,
They're, I
they're
guess,
probably dead. I don't know how long cows live.
I can't even think of a word. I'm sure a rancher would probably know, but it's probably just like, I don't know, inventory. We just had a patch of inventory born this year.
Is that would that would have been one of the I names, inventory?
Yeah. Oh, Tory for short.
That's cute.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yeah, I told you I'm artistic. Like I just
My child inventory. We call her Tori. That's funny.
That is kind of funny. And yeah. I'm not going vegan. I love meat. I'm sorry, everybody listening in. It's just not going to happen. I like to live on food that is good for people. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. There are Texans. There's not a lot of vegans in Texas, so you'd fit right in.
Well, we'll see. I reached out to the people for The Chosen on multiple occasions because I really love that show, and like it always spoke to me, and always like I was watching it and I'm like, I might be able to, I would love to perform there, but when I kind of look at like how I look as a person and how all these actors are so similar in like a very unique look and a sound, I'm a Roman legionnaire.
Yeah, that's what best.
You are. Like, yeah. And I think Pontius Pilate was already cast. So, like, what other Roman guy is there? Like,
there's lots of Romans. They're always coming in every episode. There's new soldiers, whatever.
I could ride a horse mildly decent. So,
great.
Like,
just keep trying. Yeah, my friend, my
Chosen. I would love to be in that show.
Yeah, my friend Chad is a producer for that. So.
Oh, tell him I says hi.
I will.
But have you tried? Have you tried to get on the show?
I did. I had the most amazing audition.
Yeah, let's go. What's going on?
They didn't cast me, and I was like,
for not one thing.
I just auditioned for one particular role. I reached out because I met with Chad, and he was like, "You should audition," and I was like, "All right." And so I reached out to him, and he was like, "Okay." Yeah, it was the hardest audition I've ever had to do. It was like one of those scenes where like you're like talking to 5 people in one scene. And so I was like, you're doing a self-tape, and I was like, like it was hard. And I remember thinking I nailed it. And then I never heard anything back. So whatever. It's fine. I'm not bitter. It's fine. No, I'll reach out to Chad again, and I will tell him to cast you or to at least get you an audition. So
I would appreciate a phone call because I did actually exchange emails with the director, Dallas.
Yeah.
Right before I started the Astoria Filmmakers Club, or right around the time, we connected, and it was like I just wanted to know more about Angel Studios.
Yeah, it's an interesting, how they're set up. Mm-hmm.
Well, I love what they do as far as the pay it forward system. And that's basically why I reached out to them, because that's exactly what I wanted to do with the Astoria Filmmakers Club, where if we actually had a free format for everybody to like just appreciate some really good storytelling.
Yeah.
And like it would just be a donation based type of a platform on our potentially free streaming platform with ads or with subscription, however business works, figure it out. But literally, like, just have it be that macro ecosystem, like I was telling you about, and get original stories like told, and like prepare a space for the next generation of storytellers. That's why I really believe in this thing. Like I don't like I do and I don't. I got a love-hate relationship with this nonprofit because I'm like, I don't want to like why like I'm the guy who did it. Like there's so many other more talented people than me could really make this thing work.
Yeah, but you did it. That's the difference. You can be super talented, but you don't get off your butt and actually do it. Do you know how many amazing half scripts are out there that just are sitting there in glorious form, but nobody actually does it? You're doing it. That's it. Like 75% of being an artist is just doing it. Because so many people have great ideas and they're super talented, and then they just sit there in their house and they're like, oh, I really wanted to write this thing, or I wrote it, but you're doing it. That's it. You just do it.
But is it like, it's like, am I brave or am I that dumb? Like, because who even chooses to be an actor? I just went to college. Like, if you've heard any of my other podcasts on like how things come up, and I'm just talking to actors one-on-one.
Yeah.
there's probably no stone unturned on how the hell I got to this position where I am in my life since episode 1 or episode 30 when I kind of took over the interview part. But it's like, that's what I mean. Like, God, stop me. Like, if I'm doing something wrong, please stop me, because I'm not seeing like the fruit of it all, the fruit, like, it's just, I don't like, what am I missing here? What don't I see?
I don't know. I don't see anything negative. To me, you're doing it and you're doing it right.
It's taking forever, dude.
Well, of course. Nothing worthwhile ever. What's Heinz? Good things come to those who wait. Nothing worthwhile is ever easy.
Well, no, I just never knew. Like, that was where discernment and spirituality really comes in with my thing, where it's like, how am I gonna, like, how do I know if I'm doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Like, really, how do I really know in hindsight? Like, what am I really building? Because I've always imagined I'm creating a tool, and that's what it's for. It's a tool, and literally a space, because like you and I met on an airplane coincidentally, but what if there was a better way to actually meet somebody you could collaborate with? That's the whole point of this. And when I was doing the film festival last year, we did the screening at Kaufman Astoria Studio. Fun fact, that's where Paramount Pictures began, was in Astoria, Queens. And I always thought that was a fun fact. That was really,
that's cool.
Yeah, just that is cool. And sure enough, they went out to California once upon a time, and now it's Kaufman Astoria Studios. So when we were kind of like in our like going into like just like into the afternoon, like somewhere around our second or third segment of the day, one random guy just entered in, and he was trying to get in touch with somebody in the building who works there because he wants to get into the business. And I'm just like, Remy, take it. So it basically, like, Remy spoke to the guy on like, how to get started, but that's exactly my point. What if you are dead blind, and the Astoria Filmmakers Club is sort of like a springboard to get you prepared before you level up, where you're living the dream, whether it's like on Broadway or in Hollywood, and your shit, like you're really fucking good. But what if you started in the AFC and you got your minor league chops, and now you're ready for the big leagues? That's how I always envisioned it.
That's wonderful.
You're not going to get better without learning from people who's been around, and it's just like from experience. Like, I can't tell you how many jobs I worked for free, but how valuable those skills were.
Of course,
I obtained them because I applied that to everything, and I went to college, I did all this stuff, and I hate being in debt, and I got to get a job to get out of debt, and that's where I'm at right now. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I just want to still put on a damn good show.
Yes.
But we'll see. Like, God, you tell me what to do. All right. Just keep it simple, stupid.
Well, this has been fun. I'm glad we got to catch up.
Yeah, like really get to catch up.
We'll talk again. We'll talk outside of the interview thing.
That's a great accent.
I know.
Very good.
I know. Yeah. New York. Yeah, I got it.
That's actually pretty. That's a little like, that's Staten Islandish, but I'll take it. That's pretty good.
I'm not good enough to know like the differentiations, but yeah.
No, it sounds great. You sound great.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm sure. I guess before we wrap up, if anybody listening ever wanted to like maybe get in touch with you, is there any Instagram, social media where they could see your work, or even on YouTube, perhaps website?
Yeah, so on YouTube, I'm Jennifer Bangs. On Instagram, I'm Jenny Bang Bang. On Twitter, I'm Jennifer Bangs. And the main thing is, if you go to my website, shebangs.com, that has got all my podcast information. It has my live show information. And if you are a podcast listener, you go to any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Music, it doesn't matter what it is. I've got 2 podcasts. One is She Bangs, Marriage, Adultery, Texas, and Jesus. And the other one is She Bangs, For God and Country. So those are the 2 podcasts that I have. And the live show that I did last night was the original iteration, and then the podcast came out of that live show. So that podcast is 12 episodes, and it's really good. So if you can't see the live show, go see the podcast. But if you're a podcast listener, it's a good story podcast. It's fun. So yeah, that's how you get a hold of me.
No, please. Like, if you got any links, shoot me an email. I'll be sure to like spread it out.
Perfect.
Let people know. We got a decent following on Instagram and a decent amount of visits to our website to check all these things out. So
great.
I love cross promote. I love promoting people.
Perfect. I will send that to you later today.
Please do. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time. But I had one last question if you had the time.
Yeah.
So at the end of every, podcast episode, we have this segment called The Right Words at the Right Time. And I started doing this segment because when I first started acting in 2008, I was reading this book called The Right Words at the Right Time by Marcy. I believe it's Marcy Hopkins. I'm almost certain it's Marcy Hopkins. Sorry, Marcy, if you're listening. So basically, it's just this entire book of interviews done by Marcy, but to politicians, to actors, to directors, to writers, to athletes, all known today as like real household names. Like these people are well known and famous, but once upon a time, they were not. So I've been asking the same question for everybody on the show for the early days, the exact same question. God willing, you'll be a household name. So my question is, has anybody ever given you the right words at the right time that have just stuck with you after all these years, after all this time, that have always been there to help you overcome any obstacle, for better or worse, through thick and thin? You were given the right words at the right time. Or are there any words of your own that you would like to share for someone else to hear?
I don't have anything that has stuck with me through my whole life, but I will say about 6 years ago, I was in New York City. I'd been there for a while, struggling as an artist, and I was trying to make money. I was a single mom, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, kind of what you're talking about. And I was praying, and I was like, Lord, like, what am I supposed to do? I don't, I'm doing these side jobs trying to make money, but it's not like my passion. I want to do this, but I'm not able to do it successfully and make money doing what I love. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? And I just felt God say, tell your story. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm telling my story. And when we tell stories, it encourages others to tell what their story is and to reflect on what their story is. And so tell your story. That's it.
Those are right words.
Yeah, they were right words.
Oh, they came from God, so they're pretty right.
Yeah, I know. I never really had any like mentors or anybody in my life that like has been there for me. And but God has. So he speaks to me, and he spoke to me at that point, and he just said, tell your story. So I was like, all right, I'm going to tell my story. And that's when I started writing this show. And yeah.
How many shows do you think you've done so far?
That I've just been in?
Like, well, no, I mean like that show, like tell your story. Like, I'm sure you've been in like a couple hundred shows.
Oh, no. So I did She Bangs, I did it just a few times in New York City. And then I just did it last night. So it hasn't been a ton. So
I've seen so many emails so many times over the years from you.
Well, part of that is my podcast. So when it turned into a podcast, I was always sending out, okay, here's a new episode. So yeah, good. I'm glad you thought that like I was performing it like every week. I wasn't.
I really did. No, I thought it's just like, oh my God, she's still moving.
Good.
Awesome.
Okay, good. My marketing was good.
Yeah, it's working. And I do like the Texas logo.
Yeah, isn't that great? That was the artistic what's his title? He's the
graphic designer guy.
He's the designer for Law and Order SVU. He does the what is he? He does the art. He does like if there's signage in Law and Order, or if they're recreating something to look like a New York City sign or whatever, if they're on the subway and they have like commercial signs on the Law and Order, they can't do the actual reels, so they like recreate them. And so he's the
set design
I can't think.
guy?
It's not set design. He does the artwork. He does like the written artwork for Law and Order SVU. Anyway, he's an incredible art designer. And I reached out to him and I was like, can you do me a logo for this show? And he's like, here you go, boom, boom, boom. And I saw the Texas and the lips and I was like in a little cross instead of the star. And I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. So yeah, it's great.
I love
Dylan
it.
Sheridan is his name. You can look him up and hire him too. So yeah.
Shout out, Mrs. Sheridan. You're awesome.
Yeah. Sheridan's awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Phil, this has been fun.
Jennifer Bangs, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I'll leave you with this. Wherever you go, whatever you do, always remember to never forget community, creativity, and joy.
I love that.
We love you. I love you. You're awesome.
Thank you. So are you. Thank you. Awesome. This is fun. We'll talk soon.
Bye, Jen. Great to see you.
Bye.